Hey, Dan here, and if you are an ENFP thinking about making a big change in your life, then stick around because this video is for you. If you are new to the channel, our purpose here at Dreams Around the World is to help you become the best version of yourself, all while creating the most awesome life possible for you and those you love. So do consider subscribing. Now, as an ENFP, which I am, by the way, change is inevitable. At some point in your life, there's going to be a big change. It could be ending a relationship. It could be starting a new business. It could be moving across the country or the world. I have done all of these things, as I'm sure many of you have as well. And it's never not scary, shall we say, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. And in this video, I want to cover a bit of advice around that. The first bit of advice, which really is the biggest, is do it now. No matter what else occurs, it will always be easier to do it now. There's this thing in economics, and it also applies to poker, called the sunk cost fallacy, which is when we are committed to something. So let's say you've been in school for 3 years to get an advanced degree, right? Maybe you're getting a master's degree. I don't know why that would take 3 years, but it is in behavioral economics. But around year one, you're like, I don't really like behavioral economics at all. This sucks. And then like year two, you're like, yeah, but you know, it took so long to apply and I got accepted and I've spent all this money. Like, I don't want to lose that. Let's just stick with it another year. And then you're in like year three and you've still got another year because somehow it's a 4 years master degree in my made up scenario here. And you're like, but I've already invested like 2.5 years and there's only a year left. And this is the kind of thinking that gets people into serious trouble. It's also the kind of thinking that gets people to buy like little collector sets, and there's a whole marketing trick around this where you send people like one part of a 12-part collection for free, and then they're like, I have to complete it, and they'll buy the rest. Different story for another time though. It is totally natural that when you have something scary to do, you will put it off, right? That's what fear often makes us do. Avoid whatever it is we are afraid of. And whether it is ending a relationship or moving to another country or starting a business, those things are going to have some level of fear. Now, in many cases, they're going to carry a similar or even bigger level of excitement and anticipation. Like, yeah, I might have to move to Italy and it might be a little scary, but it's also going to be awesome. I'm going to eat pizza for like 3 meals a day. Side note, when I lived in Italy, I ate gelato for breakfast many days and somehow lost weight. It was amazing. But anyhow, you are going to have this fear, and that's totally natural. The thing is the longer you wait, the more that sunk cost fallacy keeps adding things to your commitment, right? So if you're at a job right now and you've been there a year or 10 years, and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. But you're like, I've already put in some time here, and like next year I'll get a raise. The longer you stay, the harder it becomes to leave because you have more and more of a commitment. Now, eventually, in my experience, coaching a lot of ENFPs, working with a lot of people, is eventually you will end up leaving because the pain of being in that job or relationship or living in the place you don't like eventually becomes too much, and you say, fine, I will do it. But the thing is usually there's like a year or 5 years or 20 years wasted in between. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. So you just really end up wasting a lot of time. So that is the beginning here of why you should do it right now. The other reason is that in my experience, ENFPs have an incredible sense of intuition. And whether or not we're able to know ourselves so well and predict the future, or it kind of becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because once we decide something in our gut, we just like make it happen and stick to it. The odds are that whatever you're feeling now in terms of a big change isn't going to change within you. So if you're in a relationship and you've been wanting to get out for a long time, you're probably not going to like change your feelings on that a year or two from now. If you're not that happy with your current life situation, maybe where you live or what you do to earn money, and you've been wanting to do something different for a long time, you're not going to wake up in like 6 months and say, you know what, this call center, it ain't so bad. They got ergonomic chairs last month. They care. This is a pretty good gig. Not going to happen, right? So if your gut instinct, if the feeling you have that's pushing you to want to change isn't going anywhere, then why not act on it now? You might be thinking that I've spoken in other videos about shiny object syndrome and how ENFPs change direction way too much and not to be doing that. And I want to just, differentiate between these two things, right? One is when we're into something that we really are meant to be doing. So let's say you start a business and it's aligned with who you are and what you enjoy, and you're 6 months or a year into it, and because it's getting tough and because you're a bit afraid, shiny object syndrome comes in and you feel like you want to quit or change direction. That's bad. That is making a change because of either fear or just not knowing how long success takes, or something seeming easier and not being willing to commit to that hard part. And I'm going to talk a bit about that in a second as well. That is not a good thing. What I'm talking about is when you know in your heart of heart, and maybe you verified it with a friend or a coach or someone, but you know the path you're on is not the right one for you, and you're letting fear keep you in that. That's what I'm talking about here. In either case, one of the things that's really important to understand is it's going to be a bit hard at the beginning. I'm going to use the example of starting your own business here because it's just part of my world and an easy one for me to talk about. Your first couple years of business can be really exciting. They can be fun. They can be just a total adrenaline kick. Like a lot of billionaires have said that they miss the early stages of their companies when it was challenging and scary every day and all that kind of stuff. So it can be really awesome, but it's also going to be tough and you are going to need to sacrifice. If you're thinking of starting your own business and you're like, yeah, so I currently earn $10,000 at my job and a month, let's say, and I'm going to start this entrepreneur thing and I'm going to earn $20,000 in 3 months and upgrade my lifestyle. And probably not the case. Prove me wrong, and some people do transition really quickly, but usually you are going to take a bit of an income hit for your first year or two when you work for yourself. And you're also going to have to probably put in a lot of hours, go through some stressful situations, all that. Now, you ask me, it is completely and absolutely worth it. But sometimes people don't expect this. And so this leads to a couple things. Is one, someone will say quit their job and start a business, and it's really hard at first. And they're like, well, if it was hard, it must not be what I'm supposed to do. So I guess I'm not meant to be an entrepreneur, and I'll go back and I'll quit and I will go back to being an employee. Not the best thing, because it's really a misunderstanding. It's supposed to be hard when you start out. Now, the other point I want to address this from is if you are aware of this and you're in kind of a cushy job that you do not like, it is sucking out your soul, but you're in this job and you're thinking of making a change, and you're just like, yeah, but it's going to suck for a couple years and I don't really want to deal with that, and I'll do it later. Maybe in a few years it'll be worth it, but I'm really comfortable now and that's fine. It will never get easier. It goes back to the beginning of this video, right? The longer you stay in your current position, the more you'll get used to your lifestyle, the more you'll get used to that position, and you'll have this sunk cost element going on as well, where you're just like, I put in all this time. And so, yes, it's going to be a bit hard, maybe the first couple years, but it is totally worth that sacrifice. And it is better to make that sacrifice as young as possible and make that transition than doing it later in life when you're going to have less time at the back end of it to prosper from all your success. If you start a business at 60 versus 30, you can succeed in both ends. In fact, I work with people in their 50s and 60s starting businesses or who have successful businesses, and you can totally do it. And you'll probably have some really good results because you have all this life experience and discipline and that built up already. But ideally, it would be better to do that when you're like 25 and then you build a successful business and then you have your whole life to enjoy the freedom and the fruits of this business you've created. So long-winded, long story short here, whatever that big decision you're thinking of making, do it now. It's always going to be tough, but the sooner you do it, the better off you will be and the more time you will have to reap the rewards of your courageous, gutsy decision. Thank you for watching. If you're not already a subscriber to the channel, do subscribe. Hit that subscribe button and the bell button beside it, which will notify you when I release new videos, which is every single week. Catch you in the next video soon. Ciao.